everybody. I want to welcome everyone back to the Legal Zone. I hope everyone's enjoyed our podcast so far. We have the pleasure today to have a new guest, and we're going to be talking about today on season 2, episode 6 of the Legal Zone, how to structure and operate your business to avoid being sued. And we have, just to kind of recap a little bit what happened last time, we had Mrs. Melva Garcia on, where she gave you some tips about the real estate market, particularly luxury home buying and how it's different, sort of animal, and some tips on how to do so in Miami in this difficult market. And today we have, as part of our topic, one of the gurus that's going to help us. Usually I just sits on the other side of my clients.
We'll be friendly today.
Yes, we'll be friendly today. So, but I thought it was very, very important. This is Mr. Tom Scolaro, and he's from
Leesfield
and Scolaro. Right, that's what I thought. Okay. And he is pretty amazing. He has an amazing background. He's a Miami-based attorney, personal injury attorney, and he's an accomplished attorney, trial lawyer that has tried numerous cases, multi-million-dollar cases against businesses. And a lot of his verdicts, I guess the largest verdict you had was $40.5 million?
To date, yes.
Wow.
He's always the next guy.
Oh goodness, I hope it's not one of my clients. But he's going to help us how to avoid that. And he's represented different individuals and plaintiffs in assault cases relating to securities, like negligent security cases, some medical malpractice issues, in general overall negligence, but on a larger scale.
Yes.
Okay. And I guess, and a lot of them, he's going to talk to us today about how to help business owners avoid these type of lawsuits.
Yeah, you'd be surprised about the ways that people can get themselves in trouble. Hopefully I can, shed some light on it today.
Yes, wonderful. So I think that's really helpful because he's experienced. He's a seasoned trial lawyer. He's had to go into court and he wins the verdicts based on what businesses may or may not have done, whether it's intentional or not. I assume some of them, there are businesses that actually will engage in intentional sort of behavior. They're cost cutting, but they're doing certain behavior to cost cut, but they know it, versus just being negligent.
Yeah, there are a group. I would say the larger the entity gets, the more recalcitrant they get, the more they're willing to bean count as opposed to fixing the problem.
Okay.
They'll just deal with the litigation costs and expenses.
So it's actually part of their calculus then.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's
For
not
sure.
sort of like they're just so big that they just don't realize all the moving parts sometimes.
They know. Most of these businesses that we take on, some of them, they have quality control departments. They understand when there's, consumer complaints or prior similar incidents, and there's usually a mechanism for them to fix it. But rather than fix it, they just deal with the surface injury, and as opposed to trying to shut down the line, recast the machines, order new plans to really fix it and get the problem right. So.
That makes sense because that costs a lot of money. That's not just to be proverbial. There was water down an aisle and they didn't notice it in time someone slipped on it.
There's a lot to it.
Okay, so that means it's a lot more involved in it. So they're making a calculation. It sounds like a lot of times. Okay, fixing it versus one person suing and
correct.
What it can cost.
Yeah.
Wow.
You always hope that what we do, or at least what I do, will result in some sort of change that the business will learn its lesson and protect itself, and the smart ones do.
Okay.
No one wants to see me a second time.
Yeah.
Once I've heard from people, once is enough. That they've gotten the message.
Okay.
But some don't.
It sounds like you've done something right then. They want to see you again. You've, like you said, you got the message across, and hopefully they're taking it into their business models, into part of their objective. I mean, we like to think sometimes businesses have social responsibility or sense of it. Do you find that?
I think so. I think with the more, businesses are also, think about, they're a reflection of their owners and they're a reflection of their ownership. So if the owner has good community values, if the owner is a civic-minded person, then in large part, they tend to run their business a certain way. But there are bad actors. We're not all perfect people, and you're going to run into bad actors, and these bad actors have businesses just like anybody else. And you see it, their personality, their style bleeds over into how they run the business, how they view the public, their customers, their partners, their relationships. And, if they're a toxic type of person, it just draws.
It just draws.
Yeah.
I assume you also create a corporate environment that's very similar.
Oh, yeah. It's totally a reflection of the ownership and management. I mean, that's just the way it is. And you hope, the way I run my business, you run yours, is that everybody shares in the values that we're trying to create and in the mission of the business. But if you are a person that's just only focused on the bottom line and nothing else that's ancillary to that, well, that has consequences. And maybe not today or tomorrow, but it will.
It's got a short-sightedness to it.
Oh,
yes,
for sure.
And then, of course, a lot of times I see some of these larger companies have to deal with public relations nightmares when it becomes large enough, right? When the issue really gets out there.
Correct. And there's a number of instances where that happened. Now, again, I will say there are some businesses out there that when they have a problem, they recognize it, they're on top of it. They do their own, whether they have their own internal legal departments or whatever, they're on top of it, they handle it. But there's others that just let it get completely blown out of proportion, and there's nothing you can do.
Right.
And help nail the
nail
to the cross.
Yes, yeah. So then let's talk about that. What can business owners do? The ones that want to make a difference, make a change. Like, what is what's the number one tip you can give to a business owner to help them avoid these type of lawsuits with negligence and issues that come about with liability?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would say, it's sort of like there's two parts of this, but sort of they're interrelated. The very first thing I would say is, you need to have very good, competent legal advice behind you. It just, so many folks when they're setting up their business, they worry about, how to succeed in business, right? And how to, be the standout, how to do everything right. But what's a lawyer do? A lawyer's job is to protect you, right? And to deal with problems. And if you have a lawyer's input and advice from the beginning, the lawyer is going to see things that you don't see. This is your first or second foray into this business, but the lawyer specializes in this. They've seen the script. They've seen people like me. They've seen, business lawsuits and litigations and how things can blow up.
Yes.
And they've got the wealth of experience. And so, but a lot of times when people start a business, they don't want to spend the money on that line item, right? So, but that's, that's being penny wise and pound foolish.
Correct.
I'm big on sayings, and one of the sayings I have is, buy once, cry once. Spend a little bit at the beginning for some sound, competent representation in terms of how you're structuring your business, the forms that your business uses, the internal policies and procedures that you use, how you deal with vendors, your landlord, your customers, anything that you're engaging with the public especially, and how to protect you. Because what does somebody who's selling pancakes know about that? Or somebody who wants to start a bakery, or somebody who's wants a retail store? I mean, they don't know the potential ways that they can get into trouble. They know how to bake bread.
Yes,
they know how
very well.
They know how to cook the recipes, but we live in a world of sharks, and it's just the way it is. And if you are not protecting yourself from the beginning, it's a painful lesson to learn down the road. And the reason why I say it's interrelated is because, the business owner is focused on making his business succeed, right?
Yes.
That is their singular focus. So, but who is watching his flank? Who's watching his backside? Who's got his six as the language of the cross? He's not thinking, or he or she is not thinking about that, but hopefully they've engaged with a lawyer to begin with to look at and anticipate those issues, because if you deal with them at the front end, it's so much easier because you can eliminate most problems in life.
Yes. Well, and I think I see business owners from start to finish, so to speak. So some of them are just starting out, Regina, I need help, I want to do this right, make sure I'm registering. There's so much to this. From business registrations to what, if you have workman's compensation, to HR. Even if you're small, you still need some forms of HR policies and procedures in place. What about your contract? You're dealing with your vendors. And I always say the other thing, you always want to also have a good accountant around. So that even if they don't have a lot to talk about now, you establish a relationship, you can call up and go, hey, listen, I'm going to do this. Is this okay? Or how am I supposed to categorize this? Or is there a way to make this more tax efficient? And a lot of times they answer that question, they may say, well, what does your lawyer say about doing it this way? So sometimes it's a dance.
It is.
And I always try to tell them, as you grow, the same way a lot of business owners don't understand cash flow patterns, you have to anticipate them. You have to wear so many hats as a business owner.
Yeah, it's and it, especially in what I do too. I mean, my world is I don't bake bread. I'm a litigator, right? But behind all that, there's a business. There's the business of we have the employees. I've got HR issues. I've got customers, are my clients. I've got to deal with vendors. I've got to deal with insurance. We've got all of that, and cash flow.
Yes.
Especially in my world, I don't work on an hourly basis, so I don't have contingent. I don't have a influx every month of residuals. So I have to anticipate. Well, some months are going to be lean. Some months are going to be these hits because we're 100% straight contingency, and I don't control when the other side cries on.
No.
I can just help them see the light when they should get there, but.
Or when a case gets set, I mean, we know trial can be delayed. Some hearings can take months to have the judge to hear, and clients I'm sure also get weird. The other side gets weird for lack of a legal term.
And businesses, and mine was not immune to it either. Everybody had to deal with some level of adjustment when COVID hit, right? Because everybody's cash flow, most businesses were affected in some regard. In our business, we were affected because we couldn't get trial dates.
Right.
And everybody in the hospitality business was affected because people weren't coming down to Florida, and people weren't allowed to have to eat, and people weren't at the bars. And so, how do they anticipate those problems?
Or even traveling. They couldn't even come here if they wanted to do some of the.
Exactly. But getting with an accountant and a business lawyer from the beginning to establish those relationships are critical. And, I try and practice what I preach, not always, but most of the time. And we've had the same accountant for forever, the same business lawyer forever. I try and have the same office staff forever. The woman that answers my phones at the office is the same woman who was there when I was hired in back in the 90s. So
that speaks well of your environment then, because it's hard to keep people. And if they're there, that's actually you're doing something.
Very hard. Well, that takes me to the other part of operating a business and making sure you get sued is treat your people well.
Oh yeah.
Oh my Lord, the problems you could avoid if you just treat people well. That old saying when we were kids, right? Treat somebody like you want to be treated. If you do that, you're not going to get sued.
No.
You're not.
And people are going to be happy. In my office, like I said, Regina, so-and-so, sometimes I have to put these employment policies together. And they're like, Regina, it's only one guy. Everyone else knows the rules and whatever. I'm like, yes, but because this can happen, we're going to put it together. But don't penalize everybody else by making things stricter because of one guy. Now, but they said, Regina, this happened. She thought I was going to pay her for this time off, and I didn't think it was. And I said, you know what, I'll be honest, she got employed. Has she always been there for you? Okay. Then err on the side, then pay her. Treat her well. Okay? Treat people well. And do exit interviews so that you know what happened. So you can learn also, if you have a bad manager or someone doing certain things that are incorrect or possibly very on their own, outside of a company policies and procedures, you're going to be able to identify that potential risk that's going to come down the road if someone is just firing somebody willy-nilly, not giving them warnings, not doing the way you've taught that manager to act, or not in accordance with the company environment. You're going to identify a different problem. And potentially, and it's a lot harder to get new employees. It's more expensive, it's an unknown, it's better to just...
We could have a whole conversation just about that in this world. I mean, every industry, I think, across the board has been affected by that.
Yes.
I talk to my friends in finance, in the restaurant business, or insurance. Everybody's got the same issues. The legal field, I don't know what it is, but we can't draw...
Oh, it's been crazy. Absolutely crazy.
People.
No, you can't.
No. That's what I was making some small talk with your office folks here before. I said, if anybody knows of a good legal assistant, let me know because we are hiring.
Yes, it's if anybody knows,
there you go.
Please let us know. You know what I mean? I just told him eyes off mine.
No, I don't. Listen, I don't poach. I know people that do, and I don't like it.
Yes.
So no, I don't poach.
Yes. No, and it's just funny because it is actually really hard. And I have found myself restricting some of the things that I do, particularly in the difficulty of finding more employees or more attorneys. I'd rather keep the quality than try to continue to expand in some ways, and I just can't maintain a certain level of quality.
Correct. Your growth is sort of dictated in large part by the quality of the people that you have out front. Can they self-sustain? Can they start managing more tasks and taking more responsibility? Do I have the ability to sort of let them go? And can I start attracting new business and sort of leaving them on their own, with obviously with supervision?
Yes.
And that's a balance. But if you have quality people,
you can make that stretch, and you treat them right, and they also want to see the growth. They like to be treated right, to be reminded that they're doing a great job. That includes, bonuses where you can, increase in pay. Sometimes my staff doesn't even realize I just give them a bonus. $100 shows here and there. We pay for, whatever you can do. I listen carefully to their lives as well. They're all pretty good about, we're humans. It's not as if we don't have things going on in our lives. So it's a distinction between an employee that always brings all their personal problems to work versus just someone going through something that might need a little bit of more flexibility at the time, but they don't abuse. So you give it to them.
exactly. And
And it reflects, my clients see that as well. They're happy.
Think about it. We can't deal with our clients all the time, so sometimes they have to deal with our legal assistants and paralegals. And I have 100% confidence in everybody in my office dealing with even the most difficult clients because they're good people. I like them, and I'm a tough guy to get the stamp of approval on. And if I like you, my clients are going to like you, and it makes life so much easier.
Yes,
that you give them that level of trust because people want to feel valued too. And if you give them the runway to have responsibility and to be valued and to treat them right, you're going to eliminate that worry about somebody coming back and suing you at the end of the day for some stupid little HR violation or some technicality or some not paid time off or I didn't get my overtime. It's like, no one's ever thought about that because we treat them well.
You treat them right, and you make sure, and if something's wrong, you fix it.
Fix it.
Okay, oops, there's mistakes that occur, but wait, you're right. Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
You don't argue with them about something that is clear or something that is,
Own up to it and communicate. Communication is another huge thing because, again, the business is a reflection of us, and if you're somebody who is tight-lipped, doesn't like to talk a lot, that's going to reflect in problems down the road. You have to. It's almost like when you have a business, you have to flip a switch.
Yes.
You have to become a business leader that has all of these different traits. Because if you don't, you'll have problems. And if it's not natural to you,
and you either buck up, or you're gonna have to get someone that's gonna help complement you.
Exactly.
A partner or a manager or somebody, because it's still messy.
Yeah, 1,000%. Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, right? I'm far from perfect, but it's balanced by my partner. He makes up where I fall short, and hopefully I make up where he falls short. And that's just the way a good business runs. But I've been with my partner for 23 years. So we have a good relationship, and that's, again, another key to avoid being sued is have a good relationship with your partners. And if you don't, again, it's that friction that underlying a lot.
Dysfunctionality is going to come out.
Yeah, well, listen, if you come from a dysfunctional family like I do, right? There's
most of us do.
Listen, it's easy to sort of see how that can become a problem in your business, the dysfunctionality. So, boy, I made these mistakes in my personal life. I kind of don't want them in my business. So, fix them.
You learn. Because if not, you will bring those issues that you carry with you and how you deal with problems into your business. And you spend some time doing business, so much time doing work and a business and doing business in general. So you need to, it's got to reflect there. Personal relationships and business relationships. I agree. I have another question also.
Sure.
Speaking of that and short staff, I have definitely noticed, and actually I've become a little bit, I'm cranky, don't get me wrong, but a little bit like I've had difficulty even at my doctor's offices, most places I go, and I think some of it has been because of a shortage in staffing. So I understand that as well. I mean, trust me, I hear this from all of my business owners. So I kind of go, okay, that's all right, okay, this is more complicated. And I try to calm down. Although some days Serena knows that she's on the camera, and I'm like, but how do business owners deal with that, right? Because can that sometimes affect safety, legal issues, all the different things that we just talked about that can go into a business, right? Sometimes that can actually, without meaning to, right? All of a sudden, you have a different world we live in, right? And
I mean,
so,
at the end of the day, you got to remember, most of this, we're in the customer service business.
Yeah.
So, we have to, we have to be accessible. We have to be accountable. We have to listen.
Yeah.
We have to listen. We have to take everybody's concern seriously. And it's a lot, it's a lot of listening to dealing with one person's problems or this vendor's problems or this, referral attorney's problems or my bread supplier's problems.
Yeah.
You have to listen to people's problems. And business is not about, kicking your heels up on the desk and watching people do the little tasks.
do all the hard work.
Maybe on TV,
Yeah,
but not in the real world. Business is a job, and you have to treat it like a job. And if you don't water it, if you don't nurture it, if you don't treat everybody well, if you don't listen to people, if you forget that you were in the service business, you're going to have problems down the road. And I always, I come to my job a little bit differently than others. Like, so you told me you were from New York, right?
Well, I was actually born and raised in Miami, but I spent a lot of time in New York. Yeah.
So there was this old time TV commercial up in New York, and some people may know what I'm talking about here. It was called the Hair Club for Men.
Oh.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
So the guy's shtick was, well, I'm not just I don't just run the business. I used to be a member, and then he pulls
And
off
then
his,
he goes,
his
yeah.
whip. Right? So I come into my world, never forgetting that lesson in this regard. I was a client before I ever became a lawyer. Because my background is my brother got into a very terrible motorcycle accident as a kid. Or not a kid, we were in school, and I had to hire a lawyer. I had to do all that, and I had to find the person, make sure it happened. And so I remember the anxiety.
Yeah.
And I wear that every day. I understand what it is to be a client, and I understand what it is to have that anxiety. And if you always put yourself in the shoes of your customer, what does my customer expect? What does my partner expect? What can I do to bring value to them, to this relationship? You're good. It sets up for success.
Yes, it does.
It does.
And you'll catch something that's lacking, or when there's a miscommunication, you're going to see where you're not connecting.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah. So, what would be, if you had to, I know it must vary by industry as well, type of businesses, but is there something you would say to businesses that's crucial? Is it documentation of incidences? Is there anything one thing that sticks out across industries that businesses might be able to do to?
Yeah, I mean it's very varied, right?
Yeah, it really is. Yes.
Depending upon the business and what you do. I mean, a financial services business is different than the bakery or the restaurant or the bar. But I think it focuses in, if I can speak more sort of globally on this, I think you have to. This is a little cliches, but you have to mind the shop. You have to understand what it is and always be on, always looking at your six, always, wondering what's behind you, because
your guard down.
you can never let your guard down. It is a never ending cycle. And if you don't have the stomach for it, be an employee.
Yes.
And so you have to always have that vigilance, always understand that something can go catastrophically wrong today, and just keep your eyes open, anticipate. Half of this is anticipation. If you can anticipate,
yes, you can prevent in many occasions.
Exactly.
Yes.
But there are strategies you can do to minimize that. Like you can have very clear written policies, procedures that your employees are trained on, that your staff understands. You can have clear, unmistakable, consistent documents.
Okay. Safety rules, I assume too.
Exactly,
Okay.
Safety rules for sure, and you can standardize things a certain way to make sure there's no variation, that somebody doesn't go rogue. No, people go.
Are always gonna go, some people do, yeah,
You can't
no.
protect everything in
No,
life,
no,
but
no. But at least where, if someone were rogue once in a while, it's not something you're likely to catch. But if they are doing it for years or months, I mean, by that point, you probably should have caught it.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Especially when we talk about like financial crimes. And,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. If
Yeah.
you're not checking the books, and if you're not watching and making sure every penny goes,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
somebody, and you can have the greatest heart in the world, somebody can be leading you down a very ugly path.
Yes. A lot of my clients, they're trusting. We certain things, well, we had this arrangement, or we did this, or this is my business partner, I put $100,000 in and this occurred and now he's saying I'm not even an owner, and I mean, crazy stuff. And I'm just like, you know, you just can't let your guard down. If this was a business deal, if they were etchy or sketchy about putting something in writing about your rights, that's the first flag.
Exactly.
Run.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
it's like they get sort of pulled into this. Well, it's a good opportunity. If it sound what's the old saying? If it sounds too good to be true,
It usually
it
is.
probably is.
Yes.
Exactly.
And a lot of times I guess particularly in Miami.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, well,
Yeah.
Miami is like another story.
Like-
I heard like 4 new frauds this week, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I think it can't get worse.
Miami's special. You
Yeah.
know, there is so much, and you see it obviously so much more than I do. You know, all the different ways people try and, you know, play these fraud games with people. I mean, I'm sure you've got
And
stories.
they look legitimate.
They do.
They
you know,
look legitimate.
they look absolutely legitimate. So, you know, again, pointer, vet who you're going into
Yes.
bed with, right? I mean, listen,
Yes.
this is the age of, what is it, Tinder and swipe left and right.
Yeah.
And so, not me, I've been married, have been married for a very long time, so.
Yes, yeah.
But,
But it's instant gratification, and you think you're gonna, you know, like you can see a lot of things too. You can find out a lot of things on the internet nowadays where you could not easily find out about people before.
Yep.
And I actually, you know, hey, oh yeah, you know me. I'm your sister's cousin's friend, so and so. You know, I wouldn't do that to you and your family. And those are,
Oh, yeah.
that's a red flag, red flag, red flag. You know, let that lay out. And so you gotta be careful with one of those. That's the first one, because it's always like, we don't need a writing. Lawyers, they're a pain, they're ridiculous. You know, and it's like, okay. Then they come to me later, $300,000 later.
Yeah.
And they're like, I gave them this money. And I'm like, do you have it anywhere? You have a check or anything?
yeah, no,
You know, and it's sort of like, and then they're actually hostile with me. Like, they don't trust me anymore, because now, of course, they've been duped so bad, they don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
And then I tell them how difficult it is. And yes, this is the United States, but this is what you have to do if it's this kind of action. You stole my money, and I have to pay all this money to try to sue them to then get it back. I'm like, that's the system. That's also why it's better to just have things in writing, have a contract. And even then, people still do frauds.
Exactly. I mean, like, you know, I'm my wife. What is she? You know, I'm a lawyer, and she does land development, real estate, and things of that nature. And so, and she's getting into an arrangement right now with a local, well-known developer and the joint venture property, and everything's nice guy, great relationship. You know, I had breakfast with everything's right. But you know, he and both I, we all insist, well, we're going to put everything in writing.
Oh yeah.
And that's the best way. Nobody's going to get their feelings hurt, because we're professionals. We understand it. You know, there's got to be an operating agreement.
Yes.
You know, and if you run a business, if you have any sort of partnership or joint venture, you must get with a lawyer to draft an operating agreement.
Yes.
Because if you don't, oh, I'm supposed to do that. I thought that you were supposed to. No, you said I would do that.
Yeah.
How much am I supposed to contribute? Well, who gets paid out first? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. But I worked all this, and you only gave this.
that's not fair.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was fair 3 years ago,
Yes,
right?
correct.
So, but if it's spelled out in the document, you
Yeah,
know,
you don't have, no, and it's a lot of times you're like, well, so then I'm half owner, so this, I'm like, yeah, but you know what the statute says? You don't want to know what the statute says. You know, like how to resolve these problems, you know, and they locked you out, and you're not getting your salary anymore, you're not getting anything, completely just locked out. Okay, it's gonna be 6 or 7 months maybe before I can get you back in, assuming the judge assumes that's the best solution, you know? So, and mind you, having an operating agreement, I have your honor, I have an agreement that says, you know, and it makes it a lot easier.
somebody's there. There you go.
Yes, exactly.
As opposed to, oh, you guys need a trial on this.
Yeah.
You know, let's have a 3-day trial so I can figure out what's what.
Yes,
As opposed to it being spelled out in a document. And that's just the best practice, right?
And honestly, if you have legitimate business partners that really mean business, because if you have someone that does things loosely, you have to decide whether you want to be in business with that person. you know, right? Because it may not be your style, it may not be your cup of tea, or you're not willing to risk the same way they risk. But that's how you know by putting that agreement together.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're not willing to actually put down what you say in writing, then is it really there?
Yeah. Right. They want a
Of course.
fluid situation. That's another red flag.
Exactly. No,
So.
you're not going to hurt my feelings by listing it out on paper. We're all adults here. No, this is not some high school club where somebody's going to get their feelings hurt. This is the real world, the business world. Put it out on paper.
This is our money.
Yeah.
Like I'm willing to invest in this. I'm not willing to invest in something that can turn into something else over here. So either we have a deal or we don't have a deal.
That's
right?
it.
Like, you know,
And you've got to be willing to walk away.
yes,
Right?
yes,
Because, so you may be walking away from an opportunity, but was it ever really
was it a
an
really good opportunity?
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Or are you walking away from a potential nightmare?
Right.
Which,
But people don't realize how bad it can get sometimes.
ask a lawyer, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they ask me and I'm like, wait, this can happen and that can happen. And they're like, Regina, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, don't ask then, I guess.
Yeah,
I smile.
there's so many
Yeah.
ways something can go wrong.
Yeah.
And you just let me count the ways,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And they're like, Reg, you're like doomsday. I'm like, no. Hold on a second. I hope it could go very well too. But you're going to have trouble if you have these issues, not taken care of down the line. What's the point in having a great, but by the way, you know how many businesses broke apart? They did very well in the first year or two. And now someone wants to get greedy about what they're going to take, what in kinds they're going to take, what expenses they can deduct when it's not proper. And you have no agreement. And now you're going to have people surrounding going, sure, I want to buy them. Great, they're fighting. Good time to go in.
Which goes back to what we said at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Have a good lawyer that understands and has been around the block a few times. Because this is all about anticipating what can go wrong.
Yes.
And you as a business owner, as a novice, they how many cases have you litigated, Mr. Restaurant owner? Tell me how it went. They have no idea. They don't know how it can go wrong. And so that's why you have to.
And I educate my clients on it, especially in general counsel for numerous businesses too. And even on that, I'm like, listen, you can't, incorporate even the simple stuff. I always want to meet entrepreneurs. When you get here, make sure you're looking into insurance requirements. I try to give them a schedule, like when they should be coming back and thinking about these things if they're on a growth pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I even say, even when you're stable, you want to go back and make sure every so often you do an audit of your HR employment policies and certain things to make sure you're up to date and you know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, expensive initially, but trust me, these lawsuits are much more expensive in the long run.
You said something very crucial there, that a lot of people just don't think about or anticipate or revisit is insurance.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
Lord.
one of the questions of it.
the amount of problems that could be solved, or the anxiety that could be eliminated if you are well insured,
Yes.
is night and day. I mean, so many businesses just, again, they don't want to pay that line item when they're starting. And I get it, capital is hard to come by and you've got to worry about keeping lean and mean, fine. But you've got to protect your downside. And insurance is there,
For a reason.
Yeah, especially we're in Miami. It's a litigious place there. It just is. And 1,000%, if anybody walks away here with only one piece of advice from me, it's make sure you are well insured, and well insured for the risks that your business takes. Like, may sound crazy, but it's actually true. Some of my cases involve death and personal injury, things of that nature. So there was one occasion where a young man was visiting from New York, and he wanted to rent a paddleboard, stand-up paddleboard, key Biscayne. And so he rents a paddleboard, and he doesn't want a life vest. He doesn't know how to swim. You know where this is going.
Oh.
So he's out there, he falls off, he drowns and dies. All right. Problems.
Yeah.
But an even bigger problem for the business owner.
Yeah.
She thought she had insurance, and she did. But her agent never told her that there was an exclusion for paddleboards. How can somebody issue an insurance policy to a stand-up paddleboard business
and not tell them that?
Oh my God. What did they need insurance for?
Yeah.
Anyway, you must have, don't buy it from the TV commercials or Geico or something like that. Get yourself a real, licensed, bonded insurance agent You know, go over what your business is, make sure that the risks that you have are
Covered.
actually covered.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
that may sound silly. I probably have 24 stories like that.
Yeah.
And so think about it. What do? I'm not going away.
No.
Okay?
No.
It ain't my problem that you didn't have insurance.
No.
So either you're going out of business and I'll put you there, or I'm going to make your life miserable until you give me an assignment to sue your insurance agent.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
some lawyers will go away, but you're going to run into somebody like me
I'm
eventually.
not going to.
And,
I know.
and,
There's since I'm kind of GC for a couple businesses, or a lot of businesses in general, right? Lots of them they have insurance. So I'm like, okay, hey, you know, call your insurance carrier, they're gonna provide you a lawyer, right? That makes no sense, you have an insurance company, so go ahead and call them up. They call me back, Regina, I'm not covered for that.
Doesn't that make you cringe?
It does, they're like, oh.
This is gonna be painful.
Yes.
I don't wanna deliver this news.
No, you know what I mean? And then like, oh, and they want like X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars and this and that. And that can happen also with workman's comp. It can happen in general insurance. We have actually like numerous vans. We don't realize that you actually might, you might have what appears to be a good policy. But if you have two incidences in the same, you know, two sort of severe accidents, same year or same time, you might not have enough coverage to cover both of, you know.
Correct.
Yes.
Both
So people don't realize that.
There's an aggregate each year.
Yes,
you know,
correct,
and
yes.
it's one bad accident or one bad incident or episode.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
And sometimes they don't realize that you might even be like, it's 100, 300, but you might only get 100,000 for a particular incident. And if it's a severe incident, it won't be enough.
Lord, the amount of problems we solve with adequate insurance or some sort of umbrella coverage or anything. It's like, you know, my job has made me very paranoid because I see the ways somebody get hurt, injured, killed, sued, everything. I mean, I got eyes in the back of my head.
That must be difficult. Even
like,
walking, you must be thinking of all the dangers and everything.
I'm like Jason Bourne from Bourne Identity. I'm counting the exits, you know, before I get out of here and everything like that. But you know, part of that education is like me. I'm very well insured, and I need to be because you know I'm not immune. I'm a target too.
Well, I mean, put it this way: you can get up and you can fall outside my building here, and it can be an accident, but it's still you fall. It can happen. It doesn't have to be. So you have to be worried that these things can happen whether intentional. Some people do this intentionally. You know,
they do. This is a fraud. This is a fraud. The fraud capital of the world, if you ask me. And you know, I'm a plaintiff's lawyer, but I personally think if anybody's ever committed any fraud, they should fry.
Yes.
You know, it's destructive to the system. It's destructive to legitimate business owners. It games the system. It
increases the price for everything. The
the
insurance goes up, and then the prices for all the goods and services go up. It makes it just makes it a lot more difficult.
And anybody that engages in that trade, I have absolutely zero sympathy for. They should throw the bucket down. Whoever's involved in their lawyers, their parents, whoever gave birth to those people should be fried. But it's here. It's here, and it's not going away.
Well, I tell customers clients all the time. They drive an expensive car, and they might come from a different country, and they know the risks in their country. You know, because they understand the system very well. They come here and they think that we might just be more straight, so to speak. Like there's no issues here. Everything is like la-di-da. We have laws and we have rules, and I'm like, that car alone, you will attract attention.
Yes, yeah. This is why I don't wear jewelry. I don't have my watch is broken. You know, I don't wear ring. I don't wear anything. I don't want to be.
No, you don't want to be a target. Absolutely not.
It's not worth it. And the other thing I would say in terms of business owners and advice to them is, you know, this may be a small thing, but it's not. Cameras.
Yes.
Put cameras everywhere.
Yes.
Save it for 30. Have a document retention policy.
Yeah.
That you know you're retaining all the video for 30 days or whatever, and it'll be automatically taped over. But put that policy in writing.
Yes.
So you can't be accused
of like messing around with the cameras.
Spoliating the evidence or anything like that. But yeah, protect yourself with cameras because you will catch the fraud.
Yes.
Correct. Oh Lord, yes you will. And if there is a legitimate incident that happens,
you'll see exactly what happened.
You'll see exactly what happened. Give it to your insurance carrier, and they resolve it. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, because there's sometimes where people actually. They might be assuming, some of the plaintiffs kind of assumes that people don't really realize that, but sometimes depending on the activity the plaintiff is involved in, there is possibly some liability to them too for their behavior, or not noticing something that's obvious or something.
Exactly, you know, you can see the comparative negligence, you can see it
Yes.
all, but if there is a legitimate claim on there,
Yes,
look,
then you don't mess around and you
and
just.
it'll keep the litigation costs down,
Correct.
and again, you wanna escape that episode with as little damage to your premiums or to your business or your reputation as
Yeah.
possible. And so, look, nobody's perfect, we'll all make mistakes, but in this day and age, put cameras.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
The-
They're not so expensive as they used to be.
No, it's nothing. It's a very small item. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. And people can get these cameras installed for, you know, just hundreds of dollars. It's
Yeah.
not tens of thousands like
Like
the
it
old
used to
days.
be.
No,
Yeah.
it used to be. It used to be kind of cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, one of the things that I do is negligent security cases and premises liability and things of that nature. And you'd be shocked at the amount of places that don't have cameras set there in high crime areas. Cameras are a level of deterrence
Yes, they
for
are.
bad actors, and nobody wants to get caught. And if they see cameras everywhere,
They're likely to.
they're
go
likely to
away.
get caught. Crime goes down,
Yeah.
especially in a high crime area. You want to put that, but a lot of people don't do it. I mean, I'm litigating with a very big South Florida company right now, negligent security case involving the horrific death of a father of four that was needless, and they had no cameras up. There were, you know, multiple requests for cameras.
Yeah.
And if they just had those cameras up in conjunction with some other things right there, this doesn't happen. And
Yes,
look,
yeah.
you know, it doesn't need to be. You don't need that heartache. These people don't need to lose their father. I don't need to work on that case.
Yeah.
But people make their, you know, foolish decisions sometimes
Yes.
by not wanting, well, it costs this much to
Yeah,
it.
or they're paying to keep it, and then this, and then that, yes, I know.
Then don't go into business.
Yeah.
You know, then like I said, just
It's that
don't.
vigilance we're talking about,
Yeah.
because even let's say some business owners have been, you know, business owners for 20, 30 years, they're kind of used to old school, I get it, but you have to be able to adapt too,
You do, and
to the circumstances,
and
that's
if-
one of the most important things.
think about it too. If you're, you know, when we're consumers too, we go out in public.
Yeah.
We feel good when we're on a property that has cameras,
Yes.
right? Don't we? We feel good when we know that there's surveillance. That
There's lights and there's.
exactly, it's lit up, and we have a feeling of safety. And so if we enjoy that, if we have that good experience, you know, why can't you give that to your residents, your tenants? You know, so it goes back to, again, you know, the old saying of treat people like you want to be treated. And if you have that mindset when you're engaged in your business, whatever it is, some of your problems.
Yeah. I like that. I think we've covered quite a bit today.
I think we have. I probably didn't say on script, but I'm
No,
sorry
no,
about
don't
that.
worry, I usually don't,
I have
actually,
a
when
tendency to, you
No,
know,
no worries.
ramble.
actually, when I look at my script, sometimes it actually throws me off. I'm like, my name is, and I'm, you know, I look at the thing, like, so it's wonderful. But I think it's a more fluid conversation. And, you know, my hope is to bring some of these points to, you know, my audience, a lot of the business owners as well. And of course, there's plaintiffs out there too, that if they, you know, needed to, they also know what to look for if they ever have an incident as well. So the type of attorney, what kind of attorney you are, and that's the kind of attorney should be representing their interests and looks at these things as well. And hopefully my business owners learn why. There is a face to this. There is a face to this side. There's a reason why we have to, you know, not just because you want it yourself, because I think that's the most important thing. You want things that, you want people to treat you the way you treat them, or vice versa. You want to be treated well.
Yeah.
And so many of my business owners, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into their businesses. They really do, like I think most of us do. And I think it seems like a boogeyman sometimes can come out of anywhere. So sometimes to give an idea of like how to mitigate these things, how to look at it a little bit more objectively, to not be so scared of things. Because sometimes when they're so scared, they just might actually retract and be like, oh, there's too many things to fix or do, I don't even know. And there's people trying to steal from me all the time and do this, and they can kind of put it in a little bit better light, a different light, I think, you know. It doesn't seem so overwhelming, and hopefully I can impart in them, they put so much effort into their businesses that I think you want to keep making the bread, you want to keep doing certain things, this is part of doing that.
It is.
So-
It's just another part of business, right?
Yes.
And so, you know, hopefully people have gotten some advice out of this and some pointers, and you know, can't cover everything, but
Yeah,
thing I always tell everybody, whether it be you, anybody, If anybody's got any questions, I'm sure they can call you.
Yeah.
And if anybody's got any questions about what I do or my world,
Yes,
I'm accessible.
Accessible.
Right there. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
absolutely. And we're gonna put your link up and your phone number and everything. We post everything so if anyone has any questions.
And,
Thank you.
and if you have a business, call Regina, okay? Get protected from the beginning, not before it's too late.
I
My
know.
advice, free
I know.
advice right there, folks.
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to help, and trust me, I'm one of those that I'm actually pretty proactive and try to be preventive. I want to thank you for coming. It's
My
been a
pleasure.
great interview and great time with you, spending time with you and helping us.
Excellent, glad I could help.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in, and hopefully this has been very helpful. If you've missed any of our prior podcasts, please feel free to go on Buzzsprout or Apple, on the Apple platform or on Spotify. We're on various different platforms now in which you can catch up with this podcast. And follow us on all social media accounts, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Take care.